He was the wealthiest man since the founding of the nation. By day he donated to educational causes and became a well-known entrepreneur, but by night he transformed into a despicable womanizer. He do Itoi Palace, creating a private garden and housed his mistresses in 5 villas. Not only that, he encouraged them to have more children, promising a reward of a million yuan for each child they bore. Additionally, some young girls born in the Ling not only moved into the villas themselves, but also brought their young mothers to live there. One can imagine how extravagant this tycoon's life was. Even more incomprehensible was that his wife, instead of intervening, became part of their arrangement. At that time, the man was completely immersed in a life of debauchery. His name was Ni Fuling, the richest man in Hunan province. He was born in Yang Hunan, in Ijo Sujoto, peasant parents, and the family's only income came from a small plot of land. From a young age, Ni Fuling knew what poverty meant. His childhood was so poor that he would urinate blood due to malnutrition. But who could have imagined that this impoverished boy would decades later turn all of Hunan and even China upside down? As he grew older, Ni Fuling realized one thing: if he wanted to change his family's living conditions, he had to leave the mountain. It was the Yizhou Liulings and large factories hadn't yet sprung up in China, so the only way for rural people to escape their circumstances was by joining the military. At Toshiryo, Fuling decisively packed his bag and left his hometown, entering the army, where he would serve for Shiba years. During this time, he met his wife, Liu Shui, who stood by him through thick and thin. She was gentle, virtuous, and beautiful, admired by many of the Fuling's comrades. And Ijo Fuling retired from the army and returned to his hometown, joining a hardware company. Thanks to the discipline and habits he developed in the military and his natural sharp mind, he rose from the bottom ranks to become the general manager within a few years. During this time, he broke the traditional big pot system and implemented a more labor-intensive reward policy, which helped the company grow from having 20 yuan in working capital to 60 million yuan. This is as Ijo Balins, and it was this success that made Ni Fuling well known. However, it was at this point that his life took a dramatic turn. In the early Ijo Joling's China's reform and opening up were in full swing. Ni Fuling sensed an opportunity. After some analysis, he resolutely gave up his stable job and moved to Shenzhen with his wife. At that time, Shenzhen was known as a land of gold, and the real estate industry was just beginning to boom. When Ni Fuling arrived in Shenzhen, however, he found it difficult to break into the scene. To gain a foothold in the real estate industry, he started from the bottom, accumulating experience. After several years of hard work, he founded Fuzong's Real Estate Development, or LTD, in Shenzhen in Jiuliu. From then on, Fuling's life reached new heights. He continually bought the land and built properties in Shenzhen. Within a few short years, he amassed a fortune worth tens of billions. Two of his major projects, Happiness Coast and Happiness Harbor, sold for over 1 billion yuan each. During this time, his wife Liu Shui remained by his side, never abandoning him. Despite his newfound wealth, Fuling didn't forget his roots. He returned to his hometown, intending to give back. He built numerous retirement homes and schools in impoverished areas, allowing many children in the mountains to finally receive an education. He also invested heavily in hospitals and other major projects, spending over 1 billion yuan on these initiatives. To boost the local economy, he also developed several China-level tourist attractions. Because of all this, Fuling was once called a living Buddha by the people of Hunan. But how did this benevolent tycoon end up on the path of crime? As the saying goes, success and failure are both attributed to the same thing. Ni Fuling's success was due in large part to his gentle and virtuous wife, Liu Shui. After moving to Shenzhen, he transformed from a conscientious businessman into a notorious woman. Once he made his first fortune in real estate, his personal life began to unravel. Unlike most people who try to hide their affairs, Fuling flaunted his mistresses openly. Initially, he recruited them under the guise of hiring secretaries, using money to sway them. And Ni Fuling see worldview. Anything that could be solved with money was a small issue, and if it couldn't be solved, just throw more money at it. As a result, he accumulated more and more mistresses. However, with more mistresses came the need to house and care for them. So Ni Fuling devised a solution. He built a palace for himself. Soon a vast palace covering hundreds of acres stood in the Huangjia Lake Resort in Yiyang. Ishida, his own central residence 5 villas, were built around it, publicly claimed as a private estate, but in reality, these villas housed his mistresses. Not only that, but he also moved his wife, Liu Shui, and their 3 children into the palace with him, where they all lived together. Ni Fuling lived a life akin to an emperor, signing a card to each mistress, and every night he would draw a card to decide which mistress would spend the night with him. You might wonder why his wife, Liu Shui, who had stood by him through hardship, tolerated this. In truth, it wasn't that simple. At that time, Fuling's business was flourishing, and Liu Shui had tried several times to scold him for his shameless behavior, but he wouldn't listen. Furthermore, they had many outstanding loans, and Liu Shui knew that if she divorced him, they would likely default on these loans, resulting in financial losses that would be hard to recover from. 또, how pragmatism allowed니 freelance debauchery to continue. Initially, he continued finding mistresses under the pretext of hiring secretaries, but eventually people learned of his tastes and began sending him young girls as gifts. Over time, freelance harem grew larger, and the women competed to serve this man in his 50s for money. He even developed a management system for his mistresses, restricting them to the villas, and introducing a performance evaluation system based on their service and how many children they bore. He told them that for every child, they would receive R million yuan upon confirmation of paternity. This policy caused excitement among the mistresses, who eagerly tried to get pregnant by him. By the time of the investigation, Fu Ling had fathered she children with his mistresses, in addition to his legitimate children with Lai Shui. Some of his mistresses were born in the Lings, and their mothers were even younger than Fu Lin. When he saw a particularly attractive mother, he would invite her to move into the villa with her daughter. Astonishingly, these women didn't find it uncomfortable, but rather saw it as a blessing to be involved with him. One can only imagine the level of luxury Fu Lin had reached by this point. Eventually, even Liu Xue, who had tolerated so much, couldn't stand it any longer. Though their marriage had become a mere formality, she still tried to warn Fu Lin to stop having more children. Fu Lin, however, shamelessly told her that it wasn't his idea, but that the women were eager to have children with him. Saying how shameless her husband had become, Liu Xue gave up on him. Yet it wasn't until a series of events after Ling Qi that Liu Xue was truly enraged. Fu Lin, his wife, and mistresses were interchangeable, and he began scheming to take control of her shares in the company. By Ling Yi, he had successfully seized the shares belonging to Liu Xue and their 3 children, compensating them with only a fraction of what the shares were worth. Unable to tolerate it any longer, Liu Xu filed a lawsuit against Fu Lin, presenting evidence of his bribery and corruption. It turns out that during his rise in the Izhou Lins, Fu Lin had bribed officials and engaged in shoddy dealings to acquire land. Ling Yisan authorities launched an investigation, and their findings confirmed his corrupt practices. However, by the time they moved to arrest him, Fu Lin had already fled. He remains at large to this day, despite multiple attempts to capture him. His former wife, Liu Xue, has repeatedly petitioned the courts to regain her shares, but her efforts have been blocked due to legal complications. Reflecting on this case, I wonder what truly defines a person as good or bad. Fu Lin did a lot of good for the public. He built schools, created jobs, and improved infrastructure. In that sense, he was a conscientious entrepreneur. But within his own family, he was a disaster, mistreating his wife and living a life of excess. So, do you think he was good or bad? Ultimately, what is the point of a man's relentless pursuit of wealth?